All right, so if I want to use, right now this is just a base React app. All it has is what comes with Create React app. If I want to routing a spa application, what is the package I install? React, npm install React router, what was the last word? Not group. Nope. DOM, there we go. React router DOM. And we'll let that install. On my index.js, what is the component I need to bring in? Browser router is a destructured import. And this is the first context we've seen. We'll build our own today, and we'll use it the same way right now that we're using browser router. But just think, whenever we wrap app in something like browser router or one of the providers we'll create, what it does is it provides our app data and functionality, much like our app component can provide that data to its child components. These are just like little, they call them little state engines. They're class components that have state in them and methods, and it's passing it down to our app so we can use it if we need. This teaches our app how to use browser router, but it doesn't give app anything. We have to start using things to make it work. So what are the two components I pull into app to build my routing? I have to destructure two pieces out of React router DOM. Router DOM. Yeah, we need a switch. And what else? Not router, but route. Yes. So we make a switch statement that will load one of many routes, depending on what page the user is requesting. So we will go in here and build our switch with a route. Who can tell me the two props that every route would need? Component and a path. Yeah. So the path is what should trigger this component to load? What path, what URL? And if it's the home page, what is the typical path for that? // and if it's // we need to add exact. But this only needs to be done on these base routes. So if I make another one now, route path equals, and we'll say this is for to-dos, then we'll load a different component. But this doesn't need to be exact. The reason it needs to be exact is the switch will check the first route that matches what's triggered. And since every endpoint that will trigger on the front end starts with a /, even if we tried to go to to-dos, it would load the home page unless we said only if the path is exactly a /, then load this route. But as soon as we say exact, it will check for the whole word. And if it doesn't have all of it, it will keep looking for the route that does and load the right component. So that is the switch statement. And you can have switches inside of other components as well. Let's say we route to like a home page, and that home page has separate views as well. You can put switches inside of other components and extend the routes and extend your routing. Now we'll make a homepage component and a to-do list component. Now the homepage component won't need any data. It's just going to say, hi, I'm the homepage. And then this is going to be the component that has all the data, that's all mapping. So at this point, is there any reason for my app component to be a class? Why would you want to use a class component?
State.
State's one reason. What's the other one? Two reasons. So state is one reason. That's one thing we get from the component, but there's one other group of methods we get from the component as well.
Change.
We have to write those methods. But yeah, that'd be a reason why you have a class. We have to write methods.
So you don't need.
What's another thing that React gives you as soon as you use a class? It gives you state and it gives you something else. We use it to get do like our Axios requests. Like component did mount is one of these. What is this called?
Lifecycle.
Yeah, lifecycle methods. We only have that if we're using a class. Now, do I have a need for lifecycle methods or state right now? So Yes, if I want, okay, so you're saying if I wanted to get my data here, I'd keep it as a class? Yeah. Okay, so now I get to choose what component do I want to have manage my state. App would probably be the best choice. No, right now, is the only that's going to need it. I could make whatever component this loads the class and keep this one functional. But later on, if I add more routes and those routes happen to need that data, then yeah, app would probably be the best choice to start with. So we're going to do this here and get our data. I guess we need some components to load though. So let's go build a home page, build a folder called components. We'll put the home component in there. Home page. And a to-do list. Okay, so just the structure of the two components, so we can import them home from components home and to-do list. And here we're going to load home, here we're going to load to-do list. At this point, our routing is set up. We kind of just set up the bare framework. We're thinking about what's going to maintain state. So at this point, I would definitely, if you hadn't yet, start up the app and make sure this much works. Now, I haven't built a nav bar yet to trigger the different routes. So without a nav bar, how could I make different routes load? How could I, it's going to load the home page by default, but how can I test that it goes to the to-do page? Yeah, if I change the URL to /to-dos, it's going to trigger this route and load the to-do list page. Since I have nothing on that page, I can say, just to test it, to-do list, to make sure it is loading that page. And then I get rid of the endpoint and go back to /, and back on the home page. All right, so these routes directly correspond to what's in the URL. Whatever's after localhost :3000 or whichever port you're on, this is the extension of this.
So, the components called to do it so in the time.
Yes.
How
You can call this whatever you want, is I guess the point. So if I called this clown, I could go to /clown and load the to-do list. Yeah. So it's whatever we call this will be the URL that triggers the component to load. Nice. All right, well, on component bid mount, we'd like to do a GET request, but I need to install a package to make that work. Which package would I be installing? The Axios. The Axios package. So we'll install Axios and we'll npm start to get it back going. And we'll import Axios so we can use it. And then let me just go grab the vSchool URL. Okay, so this is going to do a GET request when it loads, not the clown page, regular home page. And when we route to the to-do page, we should do a GET request. And when I do a GET request, one of two things will happen. So what are the two methods I need to use on any request? Back, then and .cache. Cool. That then will come back with a response if things went well. Console log to make sure. And back here that we'd also like to see. And now I open up my home page and I get object, app.js16. So that's my either a response or an error. We're not sure yet, but we open it up. It has data, it has our data. So this must be the response, the successful return of our data. So is there any question up to this point? How do you set up a request to happen when the app loads?
So if you put that get request just inside the render, it wouldn't work?
It would. However, it would go out every single time render is called.
So no matter how or why it's rendering, it's going to slow the app down.
Renders a function and it calls it every single time we say set state. So if we want this to happen every time we set state, we put it in there, but usually when it comes back, what do we do with the response as soon as it comes back? Where am I going to save the array of to-dos that I'm getting? In state. So I'm going to have to call this dot set state in here. Now, if I did this in render, we have an infinite loop. Because set state calls render, calls set state, calls render, calls set state, and your app crashes very quickly. So no set state in here. Unless you have some sort of like a switch saying like only if this case do it once, then don't do it again. But then again, you wouldn't even use render for that. You'd use another lifecycle method like component did update. Hey, new data happened, so do a quick set state because of that. So I would avoid set state altogether in render. All right, so we're going to set state, we're going to save to-dos, but where is to-dos in my response? Response dot. So the response came back from the API. What part of this object will have our data, though? Yeah, this one is straightforward as response.data. Response.data will always be the response you get back when you're using Axios, but inside of data, it may be a big object. You may have to say data.results, bracket 1 dot data. Depending on the API you do, you may have to dig down into it to find the data you actually want to save. But the default API is very straightforward. We just kept it right at response.data, and that will be our to-dos. Okay, but what page is going to show my to-dos? I have my app in control of the state. I have it saved, but what component needs it? To-do list. Well, I can't pass props down like this. So what is the alternative syntax to component that allows me to pass props down a route? Render. So instead I can say render, because render, instead of just taking a component, it gives you a callback function that then loads a component. So it does around about the same thing, but because we're using this syntax now, we can pass props manually to it. So did you catch that change? The word component render, and then we just say anonymous arrow function, and now we can use the component syntax and pass props. Well, as of right now, home is receiving props from React Router, and to-do list isn't. Does anyone remember the 3 props we get from React Router? Match, history, and location. Yeah. And this syntax will automatically pass them down to home, but this syntax won't. But because it won't, it allows us to grab it here. We can say router props, or we can call this whatever we want, but it's the props from React Router. And then we can say pass those to the component I'm loading. So now home is receiving the props and to-do list is receiving those props. But what other props does to-do list need? It doesn't just need the router props, it needs some data as well. Yeah, it needs our to-dos. So right after this bracket, we pass down this prop, we'll hit space and we'll add another prop. Here's your totals. This dot state dot totals. And now this is getting a bit much to look at, so we're gonna do that. And I could keep adding props to this, right? If I had methods up here, like delete to do, I can pass that down to to-do list the same way I'm passing to-dos. So that's all that this render syntax is allowing us to do. We have to pass router props manually, but we can also pass other props as well. Cool. Any questions on this setup? You're going to want to know this for your app, because you have to use router in your app. Okay. Well, to-do list is receiving the to-dos, but I want to make sure. So how can I see if to-do list received to-dos? What would I console log here? Yeah. We'll console log props. The only way that data is passed downwards in React. So we'll go here, we'll open it up, and shoot, why aren't my props loading? I'm saying console log props, and I'm seeing nothing. Even if I refresh, nothing. What's that? I'm on the home page. This component hasn't mounted yet. I am living on this component right now. I'm on home page. If I trigger this endpoint, then this component will load, which is just a function that's firing. So once the function fires and loads, we'll see our console log. So I'll go up here and change the URL to /todos, hit enter, and now we're seeing our props console log loads. And it is receiving history, location, and match. So it's receiving these router props and to-dos. It's getting our 3 to-dos that we're passing here. Well, I would like them to show up here. So let's get rid of that text. Not all of it. There we go. And what does my hired array method go to for this functionality? Now, the list of data on this map. Const mapped to-dos is props.todos.map. And for each to-do, let's make sure they're showing up. We'll make an H1 with the to-dos title, and we'll give it a key of the to-dos ID. Now, how do I get them to actually show up, though? Yeah, I gotta tell it to return this variable so I can see it. Okay, there we go. By B. Did someone add this? Did I do that? I don't know. I did that. I got a memory of a goldfish. Yeah, it's kind of fun to know. No one's figured it out yet in here, I don't think, or maybe you're just nice people. But if you just change the name in your URL, you can mess with anyone's to-do list. I've made some pretty funny stuff happen with that. You know, be nice to one another, but maybe I shouldn't put that out there. So I thought that was someone spoofing me, but it's not. It's just me forgetting. Okay, so we got a to-do showing up. Component did not get request. We pass that data down to our to-do list that's living on a specific route. And that to-do list receives it, maps it, and displays it. If we were to take this one step further, what would be the next component we create? To-do, yeah. Because right now I'm just showing the title, so it's pretty straightforward. But I'd probably go further and map out to you components so I can display all their data in a more comprehensive way, make styling and logic a lot easier. So this is going to be the focus of today. You're going to build something like this. You're going to get this far into it, and then you're going to move it to context. So it's a good challenge. You know, you got to get this working first, and then you got to implement something you haven't even used yet to make this global. So that was kind of a quick review. So is there any questions? We need to take this any further or see anything else added to this app before we start a lesson?
Can you show the an example of how the component did update?
Component did update? Yes. It's going to add component did update is always to some complex data changes, so there's no simple way to show it, but we can look at a slightly complex example to see why we need it. So for example, let's do this. We're going to change this right now to a p tag, just for the time being. And we're going to separate this into two divs. This will take us into some more advanced React router stuff as well. We've already looked at it, but I'm going to look at it again. Call this the to-do page in our style sheet. And then to-do page will be a grid with two columns, grid template columns, one that's 1FR, one that's 4FR. So what is 1FR, 4FR? First of all, how many columns will my grid have? Two. What will be the size difference between the first and the second? This one will be 4 times the size of this one as the page grows as well, so that will stay consistent. Now, I think I still need to import my style sheet to make this work. Yeah. So let's do it here. Import style.css. And we'll see stuff. Nothing really changed yet. Yeah, you can import this anywhere. I could even import it down on to-do list, and it would still affect the styling that I do to app. Whatever style sheet, even if you use like 5 different style sheets, one for each component, just remember it's one big style sheet at the end. So if you duplicate classes or something, you're going to have CSS problems. But you can use separate sheets to make styling easier. Like you'll have one for your to-dos page, you'll have one for your home page. Just so you don't have to look at one giant style sheet. But I digress. Let's go back to here on the to-do list page. So we have, this is div column 1. We're going to list out all our to-dos on the left as their title. And this, in this div, we're going to load the current to-do that they click on. So they're going to click on by B, and by B with its description, its title, its image, and price will show up on the right. So this list will stay static. The right side will change. And we're going to use router with component did update to affect this. So to-do list will need to be a class. No, it won't. Yes, it will. No, it won't. Let's import route. Because whenever you're thinking of something's going to change over time, like the view is going to change, you're thinking React router and router DOM. So I'm going to make a route right here in this div so that I can load different data on it. It's going to load a single component, just the to-do, the current to-do we're doing. So I'm going to make a route, and we'll talk about the path in a moment. And then the component we're going to load is to-do. So let's go make that. To-do.js. And this will be a class, because we need lifecycle methods. Class to-do extends component. Okay. Actually, we don't need this because we need lifecycle methods. We're going to keep state. Might as well. Okay. Second guessing myself today.
Question.
Yeah.
How we usually pass on props to a class?
Same way. Yeah, you just instead of being called props, they're called this.props. You pass them the same way. So to do with receiving route history and location, if I wanted to console log them in to do, I can't say console log props. I have to say console log this.props, but it's the same thing as props as a functional component. All right, so on to-do list, what is the component in React Router that would allow me to click one of these items and have the URL change? What is the thing that actually triggers it? We typically would use it in a nav bar to load up pages. Link, yes, I'm going to pull a link. And then instead of a p tag for all of these items on the left, we're going to load a link tag. So now they're all links, and they look awful because they're inline elements, so they're going to sit side by side. That's an interesting effect. So let's hurry and change that. We'll say all A tags are display block. That's a little better. And what is the one prop that every link component needs? 2. When I click on this, where are you going to send me? Well, we need this to be dynamic because if we click on one to-do title, we need it to send it to that to-do ID, and vice versa for the other to-dos. So this needs to be dynamic some sort or somehow. So we're going to say / with backticks. We'll make this to / to-dos / : ID. What does the colon mean in a URL? We covered this once, but it has been a couple days. Yeah, so this is a parameter. And what is a parameter when we talk about functions? It's just the little placeholder we put in the parentheses. It stands for whatever argument we pass into it. That's what this is. So now I can send a request to the endpoint / any sort of data, and it's going to save that data for me when it loads the component that loads on this route. So we'll see this. We actually need to send the argument here. So we're going to send to-do _ ID. And the route that this is going to load is / to-do / ID. So here's the argument we're sending in. This will receive it as a parameter and load this component and give it that parameter. So it's like, here is the ID that it just requested. A little bit of styling is going to go a long way on this, so we'll give this a class name. Let's see our nth child just for some practice. So to-do page, we would like your div, that is the nth child 1. It's the first div inside of this div. And we want you to have a border, 1 pixel solid black, so we can see our first column. And then our second column is the second div. And we'll give it a border of 1 pixel solid blue. So here's our 2 columns. And you can see right here, it doesn't look like a 1FR, 4FR. As the screen grows, it definitely is. So we'd like to click this, or click this, and have the appropriate one load. Now, notice what's happening to the URL up here. I'm on / to-dos, which loads this page, but when I click on this, the ID of the one I clicked on just got put in the URL, and it changes as I click on a different one. So that is this link doing its job. I'm sending a request to / to-dos / some to-do ID. And that should be loading the to-do component. So let's make sure this is loading. We're going to console.log I. And it is. So when I go to just / to-do, it doesn't load. I don't get a high. As soon as I click one, it triggers that component to load. So my to-do component is loading. Hooray. So to-do. Now, when it first loads, we want to know what was the item they clicked on. So let's console.log this prompts. Remember how this happens. When I click on this link, here's my prompts. Now, the ID of this first to-do of ARD is up here, but it's also passed to my to-do component via props. Which one of the 3 router objects will have that ID that I just clicked on? Match. Yes, match.params. Look at that, _ID. There's the one you clicked on. Now, why did it call it _ID? That's really convenient because that's exactly how MongoDB does it.
That's the parameter you said?
Yeah, that's the parameter I said. That's what I said. Call it this inside the function, just like a function parameter. So I send the ID through the link. The route receives it, calls it ID, and puts it in their match.param context. So I can use it inside of my to-do component because that's where this console log is coming from. It's receiving that. So what the to-do component will do is it will just maintain one to-do. It's going to display its one to-do down below. But when the page loads, we're going to use the ID pass-through props to grab the correct to-do and load it on the page. Now, in order to do that, our to-do component will need access to the whole list, or it will have to do an Axios GET request to go get one to-do. I think it's going to be simpler. We just pass down a prompt, so I'll change it to render, router props down to to-do. We'll give it the router props, and we'll give it the to-dos from props.to-do, because that's where to-do list receive them as well. Now, to-do won't be inactive now. I just need access to what data do we currently have, because an ID is going to come down to me, and I need to find the to-do that's in this list that matches that ID so I can load it and I can display it. So on component did mount, we're going to console log this.props.match.params._ID. We're also going to console log this.props.todos. So let's close this. And we click arg. Okay, so here's the ID of the item we clicked on, and here's our whole to-do list. So we're going to have to loop through this list and find the one whose ID matches the one we clicked on. It looks like this first one is the match. It is our arg. So what is a higher order array method that says loop through this array and find the object that matches a specific criteria? Fine, cool. Filter would. Filter is a great choice for this. However, what data type does filter return? An array. How many items are we trying to find? Just one. So we can use find and see our object versus getting back an array with one object in it and having to take that object out. So on component did map, we will say const bound to the one that they are looking for is this .props.to find, and find the to-do whose ID is equal to the one that we just requested via the URI. Long-winded, but very effective. Once we've found the to-do that we need to show, we will set state. We'll save it as the to-do in state, so that we can then display it down here. We'll say this.state.to-do.title. And this is going to crash. Woo! But now I click. Look at that. All right, and I click Harry. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, by B, didn't work. But here, let me get rid of the ID and go back. Now I'll click by B. So it's working. It's loading the appropriate one. But why won't it keep loading? This is, yeah, all of this is just to build up to like, oh, now we need a component did update. Because when is component did not fire? When the page closed. And I just click another link to reload this page. Right, it only reloads the page when I leave the endpoint that loads that page. But everything that I'm clicking on hits the endpoint that loads that view page. So it's staying mounted. It's not checking for data updates. So sure, our component did not. Let's find the to-do we're looking for. But if they stay on that page, let's also check to see, did they click something else? So component did update, check again. And component did update gives you two things. It gives you props and pre-state. So this is what it was. This is your data as it was before the update. So you can compare previous props to this .props or previous state to this .state, see if a change occurred, and if it did, let's update it. Now, what would be something in our to-do that would let us know it changed, or in our props? Actually, I can possibly do this. What prop is going to change when I click on a new to-do? The ID. And where am I finding the ID in my props? So if that changes, I click on a new link. So the question I'm going to ask is if this data is not equal to privprops.match.params.id, then we have new data. So do this again. And it's still crashing because of where we're doing our GET request, but no bother. Let's do this. And now when I click arg, great. And then I click Harry, great, IB, great. It's all updating live. Component did update, checking for subsequent updates after the initial map. And once you're to this point, you can just display everything. So p tag this.state.todo.description. Maybe we'll put the background image here. So background image, URL, this.state.todo.image URL. And now I get arg, Harry, IB. And it's loading. So this is one reason why you need componented update. You have this live update occurring on a page that's not unmapped. Now, the problem with componented update is if I don't ask a question before I set state, I have made a loop. Because componented update will call set state, which will cause the component to update, which will cause set state. So I have to ask a question like this: did the change only a data change update state? And then previous props, when it runs again, will be the same. This will evaluate defaults, and it won't set state again until I click on a new link. So a little bit trickier of a lifecycle method, but it's necessary when you're handling updates. You got to ask the question to make sure this only happens under a certain condition, because otherwise it's just like putting it in render, infinite loop, over and over and over again. I don't know if that cleared anything up or made it harder, but it's good to see. So glad we recorded this. And this is a common error when you're using router props. Because this is all loading just fine because my data is in state, but what happens to my state in app.js when I refresh? It disappears, it doesn't exist anymore. And so we try to find twos out of a list that doesn't exist because I refreshed. So we probably would have to get our twos again first if they didn't exist, and then try to look through it. But we don't need to add any more complexity to this right now. But it's a nice thing. What's that? Yeah, we can cover this again for sure. I don't typically have stuff side by side. We looked at one other example, like on Amazon, we click a singular product, product page, you click that. You don't need component did update for that because every time you route to a new page, component did not fires, and you can just load the one they requested, and it doesn't cause that problem. But when they're on the same page, that's where we have to introduce component did update. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.